What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and tonight I've got some football focus. The Pittsburgh Steelers just finished their Week 9 matchup, the 2023 NFL season with the Tennessee Titans, Thursday Night Football, early in the week, first game of the week. Pittsburgh coming off a disappointing loss to Jacksonville after winning a few in a row and starting to find a rhythm. Had a disappointing game last week. Kenny Pickett was injured. It was very well expected he wouldn't be playing with bruised ribs or something of the rib variety this week. So kind of stock was down on Pittsburgh, although most people were picking Pittsburgh. Tennessee also on an interesting trajectory as well. The first game for Will Levis, the first start in his NFL career last week, came out and really surprised people. 4 touchdowns, 3 bombs downfield, 4 touchdowns overall, no turnovers. Tennessee looks their best on offense they have in a while. And now all of a sudden we've got these two kind of wild card teams that are always kind of relevant, always kind of hovering around at least 500, if not better, and always finding ways to win in games that are defensive or run heavy or ugly. We've got this matchup here, and it was very interesting. Kenny Pickett did play on a short week, and the buzz was made about a few changes. Joey Porter was officially named a full-time starter this week, which is the right move. I've been preaching about it a lot. Coming into this game, Broderick Jones started at tackle, but not for Dan Moore, who he was drafted to replace at left tackle. He started at right tackle for Chuks Okorafor, who I've been screaming to get out of the lineup for years now. So Broderick Jones, another rookie I've been screaming to get more playing time, comes in and gets the start alongside Dan Moore in replacement of Chuks Okorafor. And Montravius Adams got hurt in this game, so Keanu Benton, the other rookie that I like a lot, got a chance to play, and we'll talk about him. Never want to see anybody get hurt, though. We'll talk about injuries here in a little bit. But Matt Canada being brought down to the sidelines and calling the game for the first time from the sidelines instead of the booth was talked about way too much, and Matt Canada was shown way too much. That said, very tough, nail-biting game, a game that was closer than it should have been. They played on pretty much equal footing. Pittsburgh on offense was one of two extremes. They either had really smooth, long, efficient drives downfield, or they had 3 and outs where they had 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. So it was one extreme or the other. Thankfully, we had more good long drives than short drives in this game. Started strong, ended strong. In between, it was a bit rough. Tennessee was pretty efficient again tonight. Will Levis coming in, one of the weaker lines in football, several offensive line injuries, playing against our defensive front. Played really well under pressure. I like what I've seen so far from Will Levis. I have a higher opinion of him now through 2 weeks of NFL play than I have before. But this is the Steeler review, so let's get to the Steelers and we'll talk about it. Offensively, Kenny Pickett, 19 of 30, 160 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. So very pedestrian day. 19 of 30, 19 completions, 11 incompletions, just 160. Kenny, it has to feel like Kenny's regressing. You always like to see a game that Kenny can get a touchdown pass in and no picks in, but it feels like Kenny is regressing to me. This season feels very much like the early half of his rookie year. When we got to the second half of his rookie season, he was showing a lot of potential, and that preseason looked really, really good, and we thought this was going to be a year where Kenny could potentially make himself take a step to that next level and be a potential franchise quarterback, in spite of what we all thought, or a lot of us thought, with him coming out of the draft too early as a first-round pick. I've got to say, this feels like Kenny is a game manager now. Canada called the game very conservatively, and to a degree, I understand why. There's some play calls tonight that I didn't like, but they made them work. I didn't love the way Canada called this game. There were some calls that I was like, oh, what are you guys doing? Some of the short screen stuff, some of the jet sweep stuff didn't look like it was a well-run play, but it worked out for us. The plays that I thought weren't good calls looked really ugly, but we converted them. And some other calls, I'm thinking, okay, we're not taking any shots downfield here at all, and this sucks. But then when Kenny did take shots down the field, he missed. He missed a lot. He looked very errant on his passes. His feet were fairly stabilized. He wasn't over-scrambling. He didn't look as antsy on his feet sometimes, but not as much. But his arm accuracy just did not look good whatsoever. Deontay got open on the opening drive, sat down in the pocket, got himself a nice spot in the zone. Kenny overthrew it. Kenny missed George Pickens on one. There was a fairly simple throw. Missed Calvin Austin, had Calvin Austin on it was a wheel or a streak or something, but had Calvin Austin running down the field open, threw the ball short and inside, causing a drop. He's missed a bunch of guys in this game. He did not look good. He had at least 5 missed throws where guys were open. One was across the field to George Pickens on a simple crosser route or a drag route that he missed. So there's at least 5 plays there that could have been first downs or even more that he did not convert on. To be fair, he did throw a really nice ball to George Pickens in the end zone, which Pickens was taking long strides to get separation, got one foot down and not the other. And usually I praise George Pickens for really good toe-tapping footwork. This was the first time I can recall Pickens really missing that second foot drag. So that was one good throw from Pickett that was on Pickens. But overall, again, no real like 19 of 30 is not terrible, and no interceptions is good, no fumbles is good, but just 160 and being that errant, being that conservative, and then missing on so many throws really makes me feel like we don't trust Kenny Pickett, and I can understand why. Running the ball, this was the first time that I think both running backs are mentionable in this game. This is the first time this season I think both guys showed up to play. I think the offensive line did a nice job run blocking today for the most part. Jaylen Warren leads the way, 11 carries for 87 yards, plus 3 catches for 25 yards out of the backfield as well. Najee Harris, 16 for 69 yards and a touchdown. So really nice stuff. Jaylen Warren, again, is a great combination of speed and power. He can finish runs off strong. He can run guys over like he did tonight. He can burst out of the backfield. He's got good footwork. He can receive out of the backfield. He's a good blitz pickup guy. He's a blocker. I like Jaylen Warren a lot, and this was a good game for him, getting over 100 total scrimmage yards. Najee ran hard as well. Jaylen Warren was over 7 yards a carry, but Najee, not to be outdone, still ran for 4 yards a carry, not quite nearly as explosive. Warren is the better overall back, in my opinion. I've been saying it all season long. But Najee ran strong today, 16 for 69, got a touchdown, played pretty well overall, broke some tackles, found some gaps. I think the offensive line gelled well together. Before I discuss the offensive line, I want to discuss penalties. I don't want to dive into the minutia of who got what and what was a good call and what was a bad call. There was one call I didn't like. That was T.J. Watt hitting Levis on a hit after the throw on a third down, which was called roughing the passer because he landed on him. I thought it was a bad call. I yelled about it last week. I'm going to yell about it this week. To be fair, Tennessee later in the game got one called on them for landing on Kenny, so what's fair is fair, but bad call in my opinion. But the other ones weren't really bad calls. There weren't too many calls that I would complain about this week. Pittsburgh, though, 10 penalties for 80 yards in this game, including, I think, 3 on third downs that would have gotten us off the field, one of which I think led to a field goal, one of which might have been a touchdown. It did cost us points, but at least 3 different times we had third down penalties bail them out, I should say. And another play that was it's a really stupid penalty that I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, not very good discipline, especially on the part of our rookies, which you can understand. They're rookies. They're new out there starting. Porter had at least 3, including a 4th one that was declined because he had 2 in the same play. So he's holding a lot, and we'll talk about him. Broderick Jones had an unsportsmanlike conduct after a touchdown for celebrating, and that put the kickoff further up for us, which gave Tennessee much better field position after a good return, giving them the chance to come down and score the game-winning touchdown, which they almost did. Thankfully, we got a pick in the end zone to save us, but that was a really stupid, costly penalty that could be avoided very easily. It's only a second NFL start. I'm going to give him a little leeway, but you cannot have those penalties if you're a pro. If you're in the NFL and you're starting and we're scoring touchdowns and we're going ahead and we're trying to stay with our crazy division, you can't make those mistakes. I said it last week on the 2 receivers. This week it was on the offensive linemen. Cannot do that. Let's talk about the offensive line, though, because overall it was pretty good. Mason Cole, a few good plays, few bad plays, but not bad overall. I liked him. Seumalo played a very solid game here. Daniels had 1 penalty, but I'm not going to beat him up too hard over that. It was a dumb Wildcat play call on the goal line. Canada, don't do Wildcat. You can't freaking do it. So 1 bad penalty on Daniels, but not really his fault. It was a bad formation to begin with. Broderick Jones overall I thought was excellent. In his first start as a blocker, he had like a no pressure, no quarterback pressure rating in this game as a blocker. Jones played really well. He sprung some holes. I think he pulled on one play. I saw he got to the second level on another play. He's a big, physical, athletic, mean guy. And he got to the second level a couple times. There was one penalty that was a legal man downfield because he got too far ahead of his blocker and didn't realize the ball was going to be passed because it was a run-pass option. I think that's more on Kenny Pickett, not kind of filling in the players on what he's doing. Miscommunication there, so bad penalty on that. The unsportsmanlike conduct, you got to watch out for that. And I think he had a hands to the face one too. So 3 penalties today. But overall, aside from the penalties, which are a big problem, but Broderick blocked really well. The run game saw a big difference with him in there. And Dan Moore has been, decent this year. It's been his best year since his rookie year, showing us a bit of what he can do. And I think this combination of Moore and Broderick Jones is the right tackle combination. I like those 2 tackles as your starters because the guys around them, Daniel Samalu and Cole, played better as well in this game with him out there. So plus/minus for Broderick Jones. Can't have those penalties, but overall as a blocker, pretty good stuff today. No, I don't think there were any sacks on Kenny Pickett today. I didn't write that down, but I didn't see too many pressures on Pickett, and the run game played better. So line gets a plus overall. Defensively, Alex Highsmith gets the big game ball here. What a day for him. He gets 2 sacks and has a third one that was taken back on a penalty. So really 3, but he gets credited for 2 in this game. But he also had like 8 or 9 pressures. They showed a stat where he had like 8 pressures on 27 rushes. Like what a stud, man. Highsmith was getting off on these guys. Not to be outdone, TJ Watt played a good game as well. Got a sack in this game with his helmet off. His helmet got ripped off, and he still got a sack. He only gets 1 sack in this game to Highsmith's 2, but honestly, a lot of that was him being held a lot. They got at least 3 penalties holding TJ Watt. So while he only shows up in the stat sheet once, he made a massive impact on this game. Nearly batted a couple of balls, nearly got a few more sacks, but great pressures. Highsmith and Watt combined for 3 sacks and probably like 15 pressures in this game. Marcus Golden comes in. Highsmith went out for 1 play. Golden comes in and gets a sack. Highsmith returns. So Marcus Golden being a very solid third outside linebacker, making plays for us all season long. He gets a sack as well. So 4 sacks in total for the Steelers tonight. Excellent pressure. That was our high point. A couple of positives I want to give out. Joey Porter Jr., it's another plus/minus. Positive and negative, right? So he is the starter. Not only is he the starter in this game, he's guarding the number 1 guy because they have moved around Patrick Peterson to different spots in the field. Porter winds up guarding DeAndre Hopkins, which is a tough ask, especially after last week, 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Porter comes out. He, as a coverage guy, he's doing well. He's getting gunned at downfield. He's not giving anything up big downfield. His body positioning is good. He's staying glued onto his guys. He's staying in front of his guys. He's looking back toward the ball. I like his mechanics inside his physicality. That being said, he is doing what we expected him to do, and that's holding guys a lot. He's grabby. He's throwing his hands toward the face. There's some things he needs to watch out for. Number 1, he got an offsides penalty, which is rare for a corner, but he tried to jump on the route and press a guy and jumped himself offsides, which is rare, and then he put his hands in Hopkins' face. So he got 2 penalties on 1 play. There was another one on 3rd down, which I think was questionable. I wouldn't call it a holding, but he got called for it. It could go either way. It wasn't a bad call, but it wasn't a call I'd make in the 4th quarter. But he held Hopkins quite a bit. There was a couple replays that he had good body positioning on, but he was still holding. He was glued to his guy, which again, that's going to be positives and negatives. You're going to get that with a rookie player, but he's always kind of been a grabber, and he's grabbing a lot at the NFL level, and he's not getting caught as much as he's grabbing, but he was called out for it, I think, at least twice tonight, and he grabbed several more times, so you have to watch that. He is big and physical, and that's great, but he's grabbing too much, and it's going to hurt us on some deep balls later in the season. We have to get his technique up to his physicality and find a mesh between the two. So plus/minus on that. He also needs to watch his taunting. When he makes good plays on 3rd downs, which he's very good at, he's very impactful for a rookie, he is taunting way too much. He's going to get flagged. He needs to calm down. He's a rookie. He's excited. That's great. He needs to slow his roll. He's only in his 2nd start. He needs to shut his mouth. Where else we got? Levi Wallace, plus. He comes off the bench. He's healthy tonight. Porter still gets the start. Wallace got targeted. He didn't play too much early in the game. He was playing alongside Darius Rush, who's a new practice squad call-up for us, signing for us. Wallace comes in several times in the 4th quarter. 3 times he was targeted. No catches allowed. I like what Levi Wallace did as the 3rd corner in this game. Maybe he can be a very good guy as a 3rd corner for us because he is a veteran that does have some ball skills. So good to see him around the ball a lot toward the end of the game, getting targeted, making plays. Maybe he's much better suited as a 3 more than a 1 or 2. I like where this rotation is. Much like the offensive line is gelling, I think the corners are gelling a little better. That being said, one more big positive for us. First, Keanu Benton. He got a lot of playing time tonight. Montravis Adams got hurt. Good to see him out there. He only got credited for 2 tackles, but he was in on the quarterback a lot. He got 2 or 3 plays where he was pushing guys in the backfield in the run game, and 2 or 3 plays where he was hitting the quarterback and getting very close to sacks. He is good at finding screens. He's good at pursuing the ball at the end of the play, and he's good at getting himself in the backfield, hitting those quarterbacks and making a difference. That causes tip balls and errant throws, and that's going to help us a lot. Keanu Benton is a stud. I like seeing him out there. A couple quick negatives, man. Quan Alexander did get the go-ahead interception. He faded back and got a pick to seal the game for us. Very nice. And I like what these guys are doing in the run game, like Landon Roberts especially. Cole Holcomb goes down with an injury in the maybe late third quarter. He must have torn something. I have no reports as of yet, but he got carted off the field and it didn't look good. He was immediately considered out for the game. He may have torn something. I hope not. I like what he's done this season. In the last 2 weeks, I've praised those top 3 inside linebackers. I'm going to say this was a bad game for them. I like some tackles that Landon Roberts had in the run game. Those were positive. Quan with the big pick was a positive. Cole was in on the run game when he was healthy. That was a positive. But coverage-wise, the inside linebackers had a bad coverage day, big time, and the safeties without Minkah Fitzpatrick, KZ and Neal, had a struggle. There was a mid-zone between the inside linebackers and the safeties where the linebackers were trying to float back and the safeties were trying to float down, and there was wide open gaps the whole night. Kyle Phillips, the 4th receiver, had like 60 yards. DeAndre had about 60. Chigo Okonkwo at the end of the game had 3 big catches to extend their drives. Our inside linebackers and safeties, the communication was bad. There was some delayed reactions trying to get the plays in, and there was just some gaps. The middle of the field, that like 15 to 20-yard pattern downfield was sitting wide open. Those zones had holes big enough for me to catch some passes, and I'm disabled. So we got to fix that big time. Cam Hayward being back was really nice. Really good to see that. Made about 3 or 4 nice plays in there. Looking healthy, looking fresh. Peterson, I'm going to give a negative to, but not a harsh negative. He did float around, played a little bit of slot, played mostly outside corner when he was corner, but then about maybe a third into the game or so, he was doing a lot of safety, trying to make up for those lack of plays. He did have one nice third down play that he batted a ball on an out route. That was a good play. Aside from that, he was still getting beat a lot. So I'm going to give him a negative here, but I think he is better suited to be a floater or be a safety. I think much like Benton, much like Broderick Jones, much like Porter being in the game, sorry for the whistles, I think that Peterson is better suited floating, and that's going to help our coverage out. So again, better offensive line, better pressure on the D-line, better corners getting physical, and now we have a veteran guy floating around as a safety. That may help us there, at least till Minkah gets back. So I like that move there. Special teams wise, sorry for the fire engine outside that apparently sounds like my house is on fire. Chris Boswell, 2 for 2, made both of his field goals and all of his extra points. Great game for Boz. Presley Harvin, 4 punts, 200 yards total, a 50-yard punt average with 3 of the 4 punts being inside the 20. Excellent day for Harvin, coming off a bad game last week, so one of his best games of the year. Boz and Harvin, both thumbs up. Also, Miles Boykin had a catch tonight and a really nice special teams tackle as well. So shout out to Miles Boykin, who gets underappreciated. That's the game. Pittsburgh is behind by a field goal most of the game, puts together some long drives, comes down for the game-winning touchdown pass. Deontay Johnson. Did I even go over the numbers tonight for the receivers? I forgot. It's been late. Deontay, 7 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Finally gets a touchdown. First time in a year and a half Deontay gets to the end zone. George Pickens, 2 catches, -1 yard. I wanted to talk more about this, but I skipped over it by accident. 2 catches, I think 3 targets, 2 catches, -1 yard. His third target was a catch that he caught in the end zone for a nice catch, but then he didn't get the second foot down. So bad night for Pickens, not enough targets, not enough downfield shots in general for the offense. We need to get better at that midfield coverage on defense, have less penalties, and take some more shots downfield. But we do need to figure out if Kenny can be accurate enough, because that was a problem today. That being said, couple long drives result in points for us. We get 20 points on the night. Game-winning touchdown. Defense holds up at the end. Way too close for comfort, but Pittsburgh moves to 5-3, keeping pace with our division. What do you guys think? Who stood out to you? Please tell me in the comments down below. Who'd you like today and who didn't you like? Please like, share, and subscribe if you like these deep dive videos. I will see you guys in 10 days for more Steelers plus other film reviews and things like that. I'm going to bed. I'm tired. Go Steelers. Big win tonight.